So on behalf of 62 million freedom-loving South Africans, we say thank you. We say, go well, Reverend, go well. The ancestors, Martin Luther King, John Lewis, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Winnie Mandela, and many others, both here and in South Africa, have been waiting to embrace you. And we, the people of the Rainbow Nation, that you, Jesse Jackson, helped to build, salute you, and we say power to you. But we also say, rise, African Jesse Jackson, rise. And we say, rest, African Jesse Jackson, and thank you, we thank you eternally for your support for our struggle. Thank you to all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Program Director, the family of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, congressmen and women who are here present, the Mayor of Chicago and the leadership of this organization, friends and colleagues. Program Director, I heard you say that if you are not a Jackson, you can only speak for 2 minutes. But I have traveled 14,000 kilometers. Which is 9,000 miles, over 24 hours. And Jesse Jackson's story and relationship with South Africa can never be told in 2 minutes. So indulge me in my 30 minutes. I will tell the story. The people of South Africa are with you today as you lay to rest a great man, and as you celebrate a remarkable life that altered the moral direction of a nation and inspired the conscience of the world. We are here to join you as you say farewell to a man who carried a message of hope from the streets of Chicago to the streets of Soweto in Johannesburg. But today we are also here as South Africans to lay claim to Reverend Jesse Jackson as one of our own, and to say he does not belong to you only, he also belongs to us. But we lay claim on him because he first laid claim on us. He chose us. You may ask, how can a son of South Carolina belong to the people of Soweto? How can a man born in segregated African American or American South be claimed by the people of a faraway land that was bedeviled by the racist system of apartheid? Well, I'll tell you how, and I'll tell you why. Belonging is not determined by the soil on which you were born. Belonging is determined by the soil on which you choose to join the fight against an evil system. In the long and painful years of our struggle, when the voices of our people were often silenced, Jesse Jackson chose to belong to us by raising his voice against apartheid on our behalf. When our cause was ignored and many would look away and walk away, he stood firm in his solidarity with us. He looked at the people he had never met and said, "Your pain is my pain. The chains that bind you are my chains. Your struggle for freedom is my struggle as well." And for this, the people of South Africa remember him not as a distant friend, but as a brother in the struggle for justice and freedom. That is why we claim him as ours too today. Jesse Jackson was an African. We lay claim to him because he was an African. Pledging his solidarity with our struggle did make him one of us, an African American. Ours, not only yours. He epitomized the image that was depicted by one of the key founders of the African National Congress, Pixley Kaisa Kaseme, who delivered a most famous speech in 1906 here in the United States when he was a student at Columbia University. And he said, "I am an African, and I set my pride in my race against a hostile public opinion. The brighter day is rising upon Africa. Already I seem to see her chains dissolved." That speech captured the spirit of African pride and hope. That is what Jesse Jackson meant to South Africa and Africa. Hence we stand here and say he belonged to us. Jesse Jackson stood with the people of South Africa during our darkest days and hours against apartheid. He told the world that the struggle for dignity in the United States was inseparable from the fight against apartheid and injustice in South Africa. When Jesse Jackson reminded the United States that its strength as a nation lies not in exclusion, but in the beautiful diversity of its people, black and white, rich and poor, urban and rural, workers and farmers, immigrants and the forgotten, we were hugely inspired by his message. Nelson Mandela and his comrades were hugely inspired too by Jesse Jackson whilst they were serving life sentences on Robben Island, as they observed how Jesse Jackson carried out our struggle for justice beyond the borders of the United States. He was a voice that refused to be silenced when silence would have been easier. A voice that preached a message of hope from the streets of Chicago to the dusty streets of Gugulethu in Cape Town in South Africa. That justice was not a privilege for the few, but a birthright for all. His rallying call, "Keep Hope Alive," became a compass of our struggle and gave us hope for victory over the evil system of apartheid, exclusion, division, and oppression. Jesse Jackson expressed his solidarity with us when he visited for the first time South Africa and came to Soweto 47 years ago after the killing of Steve Biko in apartheid police cells. He drew massive crowds at rallies in Soweto, where he famously declared, as though he was a prophet, and indeed he was. He said, "This land is changing hands." When the Reagan administration chose constructive engagement, diplomatic language for doing nothing, Jesse Jackson chose unconditional solidarity with the oppressed majority in South Africa. He became the most visible American public figure advocating for comprehensive pressure and economic sanctions against apartheid South Africa. By placing South Africa at the center of American electoral politics during his presidential election campaign, Jesse Jackson influenced millions of voters to confront apartheid as their moral responsibility too. He led many marches here in the United States, and in 1985 was arrested with his two sons, Jesse Jr. and Jonathan, outside the South African embassy. They were arrested, and as they were arrested, they sang the song which Stevie Wonder rendered here, "We Shall Overcome." It was a song that became part of our struggle freedom songs, from which we drew inspiration. He took the fight against apartheid globally. On the 2nd of November, 1985, he marched with the ANC President Oliver Tambo, anti-apartheid movement President Trevor Huddleston, and more than 150,000 people in what was one of the largest anti-apartheid demonstrations ever held in Britain. Not only did he march in the streets, he walked into the corridors of power. He opened doors, and when the doors were closed, he kicked them down. He personally lobbied international leaders. He lobbied Pope John Paul II to visit South Africa and hasten change. He pressed Mikhail Gorbachev to cut all Soviet diplomatic ties with Pretoria. He challenged Margaret Thatcher to her face. She refused to budge, but he did not stop. When Nelson Mandela finally walked free in 1990, after 27 years of imprisonment, Jesse Jackson was there in Cape Town, witnessing a moment the world would never forget. He described the atmosphere as a release of glee and joy, as millions celebrated not only the freedom of a man, but the rising hope of a nation, the South African nation. In 1994, he was present when Nelson Mandela became the first democratically elected president of South Africa. Jesse Jackson kept returning after 1994, when many of his contemporaries moved on. We claim Jesse Jackson as one of our own because he never saw the struggle of the people of South Africa as a distant or foreign cause, but as a struggle that belonged to him as well. His greatest gift to the oppressed people of South Africa was the courage he gave us to believe that we must never surrender hope, that justice would prevail and freedom would come. He encouraged us not to lose hope in the face of oppression, not to lose hope in the face of injustice, to have hope that ordinary people standing together would write their own history of triumph against apartheid. The life of Reverend Jesse Jackson reminds us that the struggle for justice is never the work of a single lifetime. It is a long and noble journey that is carried forward across generations. In fact, it is a relay in which the torch of freedom is passed from one generation to another. Martin Luther King Jr. lifted that torch and gave the world a dream of justice and equality. Jesse Jackson carried that dream forward with hope, keeping its flame alive in the hearts of those who refuse to surrender to injustice. And Nelson Mandela carried that dream into freedom, helping to build a rainbow nation where dignity and liberty could belong to us all. And so today, that torch still burns. It is now in our hands to guard it, to carry it forward, and to ensure that the dream of justice continues to light the path for generations yet to come. Now we must ask ourselves, as we are gathered here, how can we honor the life and the memory of Jesse Jackson? We honor him by carrying forward the values that he lived for: justice, dignity, equality. By committing to a lifetime of service to others, by showing up when others look away from injustice, when they fear to stand up to power, and when they walk away from suffering, by pledging solidarity and using every opportunity to support the just struggle of others, and by ensuring that there is justice for all, by keeping hope alive, what Jesse Jackson taught us. Today we honor a man whose voice stirred the conscience of leaders and ordinary people, whose courage strengthened movements across the world, and whose faith never wavered, even when the road was long and difficult. To our mother, Jacqueline Jackson, to his children, we would like to say the following. We, as the people of South Africa, are here to say thank you. The African National Congress, the organization I lead, with which Jesse Jackson worked closely with, also says thank you. We are here not only in mourning, but in gratitude, deep, abiding, and unrepayable gratitude. You gave us your husband, your father, your patriarch. You shared him across an ocean and across continents, across marches and prison gates and inauguration days. When South Africa needed a friend in the corridors of power, you allowed Jesse Jackson to be that friend. His support meant that when our people were tear-gassed in Soweto, someone in America was weeping with us. It meant that when our leaders sat in prison cells on Robben Island, someone was standing in the capitals of the world, in Washington and in London, saying Nelson Mandela and his comrades are not terrorists or criminals. They are freedom fighters. and saying that the world must listen and act. We are grateful that on the day that Nelson Mandela walked free, on that historic and miraculous day, Jesse Jackson was standing in the sunlight with us, not because it was required of him, but because it was in him to witness the emergence of the South Africa he had campaigned for, a South Africa he had been arrested for, that he struggled for and prophesied about in Soweto in 1979. We honor him for his enduring commitment, his expression of real love, sacrificial love. The commitment he displayed did not wait to be invited. It made him simply show up. And Jesse Jackson always showed up without anyone's permission. He showed up for South Africa, and he showed up again and again and again. Long after the cameras had moved on, long after sanctions were won, long after apartheid had been defeated and relegated to the ash heap of history, Jesse Jackson kept coming back to express his gratitude. As a free nation, South Africa awarded him the Order of the Companions of O.R. Tambo, one of the highest honors that we bestow on someone who struggled with us. But truth be said, no medal, no honor, no citation is important enough to express what Jesse Jackson gave and meant to us. What he gave to us cannot be framed and hung on a wall. It lives in our Constitution today. It lives in our freedom. It lives in the hearts of our people. That is why we are here today, to carry Jesse Jackson's spirit home with us. For the hope he nurtured, the courage that he inspired, and the solidarity that he showed to our people must not end with this moment. It must continue to inspire us in our shared journey to build a better life for our people.
Thank you, Africa, Mama Africa. Oh, yeah. You make Africa great. Thank you, freedom. Thank you, Africa.